Hi, Dave from road.cc here, and we are with the new Rotor 1x13 group set. Look at that, we've got hands on with it. We're not allowed to ride it because they've zip tied the crank set to the frame, so I don't think it's quite a rideable sample yet. But this is it. So why 1x13? So we've had a lot of talk about 1x. It's been brilliant in mountain biking. A lot of people are using it for cross and gravel riding. And in the road sphere, we've seen the 3T Strada, which has adopted 1x. But it's now gone back to 2x. They've released a Strada Due, partly, we think, because the Aqua Blue Sport team, who use the bike in professional races, wanted that extra gear range. So with a 1x11, you're either compromised in the sense of you don't have enough gear range, so the range between the top and the bottom of the cassette isn't big enough, or the gaps in the cassette are too big, so you can't always ride at your optimal cadence. So a 2x11 group set doesn't have 22 usable gears, so if you go through the cassette then switch from one chainring to another, really in terms of sequential gears you're talking about 14. Now this is a 13 speed, and what Rotor has done is looked at all the data from the professional athletes that they sponsor, and they've plotted it on special graphs that they've shown us, very interesting, and they've shown that there's an optimal cadence band that these athletes use. It's not the same all the way through, so it's a narrower band at the top end where you're using high gears, and it's a wider band at the other end. And what they've done is they've plotted that information against the gear ratios here, so that you've always got a gear ratio throughout the 13 speed cassette that is in the optimal cadence range. So you never have to go out of your optimal cadence range, and it's the same range as a double cassette. So this is running a 10 to 46 cassette. This is the gravel cassette. There's also a 10 to 36 and a 10 to 39, which are more designed for road. Now, if you're running a 50 tooth front ring and you're running a 10 to 36 rear cassette, that's equivalent to a 53-39 and an 11 to 28. And if you're more used to running a compact chainring or a wider range cassette, then the 10 to 39 gives you a wider range that apes that. So you can match the gearing on this bike in a 1x13 to what you're already running with a double chainring. So Rotor have already released a hydraulic group set, the Rotor Uno, and actually these levers are exactly the same. They work in exactly the same way. The only thing that has changed is that obviously they've removed the left-hand shifter because it's no longer necessary. So the shifting is the same. It uses a 3mm hydraulic tube going down to this rear mech. Now the rear mech obviously is completely redesigned because the Rotor Uno was a road group set, and this new 1x13 group set is designed to do everything. So it's designed for road and gravel and mountain biking. So it's significantly beefed up. You can see that it's got a nice alloy casing here. All of the shifting is indexed within the rear mech. So you don't have to worry about setting it up. After you've got it bled and indexed, it should stay indexed all the time like an electronic group set does. There's an interesting button here which is used to basically dump the mech into the smallest sprocket. So that's for when you want to remove the wheel. And also you can disengage this cage here, and that loosens the chain, makes it easier to get the wheel out. There's 13 cogs on the back here, so that needs a different wheel. So what we have here is we have a standard open source spline like a Shimano Hyperglide spline, and the free hub is the same size, but it's been moved inwards by 3mm. That allows, firstly, the space to fit a 13 speed cassette, and also it means that this 10 tooth sprocket sits outboard of the free hub, and they use a special new proprietary lock ring to pull the whole thing on. It's a two-piece cassette, so the outer bigger sprockets are alloy, and the smaller inner sprockets are steel, and the two are splined and bolted together, so they transfer torque between the two. There are 4 variants of this, so there's a 10 to 36 and a 10 to 39 for road, there's a 10 to 46, which is this cassette for gravel, and then a 10 to 52 for mountain biking. So all of the disciplines are covered. Right, if you don't want to go to the expense of buying a new wheel set, then you can run the Rotor system as a 12 speed. So you can change the indexing to 12 speed in the mech, and you can run a 12 speed cassette here, which is an 11 tooth rather than a 10 tooth. What they've done is they've offset the back of the largest sprocket, a little bit like Shimano did with the mountain bike 11 speed cassettes, so that a 12 speed cassette will fit on an 11 speed free hub. Obviously you lose a little bit of range like that, but it means you don't have to spend a bunch of money on some nice new MV wheels, so that might be a better option for you. The spacing of the cassette is exactly the same as SRAM Eagle, and Rotor haven't made their own chain. They're just using a KMC 12-speed chain. It's a standard chain, so no changes there, nothing new. The brakes are from Magura, and they are also unchanged from the Uno. I mean, these are badged up as Uno at the moment, so they're exactly the same brakes. In terms of weight, this is a really light group set. So Rotor Uno was the lightest road group set. It was 150 grams lighter than the SRAM ETAP. This isn't quite as light. Obviously, you're saving weight at the front because you're losing the front mech, you're losing a chain ring, and you're adding weight at the back because you've got a bigger cassette and you've got a bigger rear mech there. Overall, the difference is 30 grams. So it's 30 grams heavier than Rotor Uno, but it's still 120 grams lighter than SRAM Red ETAP. So still a very light group set. In terms of aerodynamics, it should be a little bit more aerodynamic because you're losing the front mech, you're losing a chain ring, so better airflow over the bottom bracket. The rear mech obviously is bigger and the rear cassette is bigger, but this whole area, which is behind your leg, which is going round, is less of an issue for clean air. So there's a lot of turbulence here already. So Rotor aren't making any particular claims about the aerodynamics of the group set, but certainly it shouldn't be any worse than any other group set you'd be running on your road bike. We don't know how much it's going to cost. It's probably going to be quite expensive. We don't know exactly when it's going to be here. Rotor is saying that it's probably going to be the first quarter of next year. We would expect it maybe to be a little bit after that, but we shall see. But it's certainly a really interesting development, and it really does bring one-bike into the domain of the racing road cyclist, whereas before it was a little bit of a compromise. Now you've got the same gear range and you can stay in your optimal cadence all the way through. So yeah, that's the Rotor 1x13 group set. If you've got any questions about it, don't forget to ask them in the comments below. We'll get them answered for you if we know. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this on road.cc. Cheers for watching.